When the kids take their tests in the fall, 2007, they've completed their test, pretty much the point we're at right now. What do you do with NWEA? What's your process? Keith?
Part of my process would be looking at Descartes and seeing where the gaps are.
Okay.
And what we're missing and what, looking at the next level in Descartes to make sure that I want to move my students up to that level.
Okay. How far back do you usually go when you look at their data?
I personally look
Yeah.
at, I'm the 6th grade math teacher, so, well now both, but I personally look through all of 5th grade, and then if I, particularly the growth, like fall, winter, and spring and 5th,
Okay.
before I.
So a previous year, and then the fall score of what they took.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And so there's lots of different ways to look at data. What we're going through today, that's basically what we're coming up with. We're coming up with a process of going back and looking at the data trends for students, charting that, documenting that somewhere, and then using that history, that data history, to make goals for those students. So how have we made goals for students with NWEA in the past?
Somebody gave it to us.
Somebody gave it to us, right? And so somebody explain that process. How did, besides Linda Sullivan, because she's the only one in the room who knows, I have a feeling. So, Brian.
They would actually add up everyone's scores, and then they would come up with that you need to make 80% of the growth according to what the NWA said statistically.
Right.
So like what Ms. Baldino was saying this morning, you get your whole class to meet your goal, and you had one kid go up by 30. So now they're going to do it by individual and what the kids are going to do.
Okay, good. All right, excellent. So, I mean, it was one sort of standard. Every kid in this grade needs to obtain this growth. That measure is applied to every kid's score, and that's how they come up with the final RIT score that kids were supposed to grow by. Okay? So, and there's probably a lot of people, I don't know that I could have articulated that probably a couple of weeks ago. How did they make the goals? I don't know. They just kind of come magically on our drive or whatever, right? They just kind of show up. So, what this whole process is about is us having ownership of that goal setting process. We are going to know how those goals are set because we are going to be setting those goals. And you're going to have ownership of what a kid's goal. Who knows the kids better? The teacher knows the kid best. And you know which kids you can push and get the most out of, and which kids maybe a goal's too lofty for and needs to be backed down a little bit. So that's really what this process is all about. So we are going to look at student progress reports. We're going to take those progress reports, and on that chart, we're going to plot the kid's history. Not just the previous year, but as far back as we possibly can. So most of the kids that we have, their reports will go back to the spring of 2nd grade. So we're going to plot those points for spring and fall. We're going to not do winter scores, and we'll kind of get into that whole process in a second, okay? And then the next thing we're going to do is draw a line of trajectory. So we're going to look at their history of scores, and this is where the ruler comes in, and we're going to try to project where that kid is going to perform in 7th grade, the end of 6th grade, the end of 8th grade, depending on which kids you have. We're going to try to project where they're going if they continue to score the way they have typically been scoring, okay? We're going to utilize a goal setting worksheet, which Ms. Sullivan passed out, to help us think through a new growth target. So this is where I said you all have ownership of these growth targets. You're going to set the growth for that student. What's the appropriate amount of growth for each of your students? And so I think that's something different that we need to start thinking about. So our sort of network goal is based on typical growth. So that's the number that NWEA crunches out and says this is what a kid should obtain. But what the problem with that is, for a lot of our kids that are behind or not on grade level or haven't closed that achievement gap yet, that's not enough. That's not going to get it done. And you saw some of the statistics up there. Less than 50% of our kids are on this college and career path, which really means that a lot of them aren't prepared for high school. And so we need to start thinking of our goals a little bit different and pushing a little bit higher so that we have more rigor in our programs, so there's more differentiation going on in our classrooms, and so that we address those kids and put them on track to be successful in high school and to be successful, hopefully, maybe, possibly in college.